My name is Alex. I'm turning 24 this month. I was assigned female at birth, but I identify as a transgender, gender queer, whatever person. And I'm basically attracted to everyone, regardless of their body, their identity, and anything else.
My name is Dražen Zima. I'm 43 years old. I'm a male, I'm a man, and I'm heterosexual.
My name is Erin. I'm 26 years old and I use he, him pronouns. I was assigned female at birth, even though I was always an intersex man. When it comes to the sexual orientation, I am straight.
My name is Mihail Secen. I am 43 years old. My sex assigned at birth is male, and I identify as male, and I'm gay.
Martina Šalv, I'm 38 years old. My sex assigned at birth is female. I identify as female, and I also identify as a lesbian.
My name is Sara. I'm 29 years old. At birth, I was assigned female sex. I identify as a woman, and I am straight. Yes, I'm open about being straight because I never had to think about it, honestly.
Yes, in most places. I'm open about it to the extent where it doesn't pose immediate danger to my health and well-being.
I'm actually very open about my sexuality, and I have been so since I can remember.
I'm open to my sexual orientation, but I never thought of it. I never think about it. So, yes, I'm open to my heterosexual orientation.
I am straight, and that means that I have no reason to not be open about my sexual orientation. But when it comes to the showing affection or holding hands with my wife in public, I am kind of always in fear. I believe that comes from the not so far times when we were perceived as a lesbian couple.
I'm mostly open. I often choose what people or who I'm not going to be open with. I often choose not to come out because I don't want to be viewed just through this lens, or I kind of sometimes fear that people will focus on this instead of my work, because I am gay, but I'm not only gay. I'm more than my sexuality.
Well, I am open about the thing that I'm being a man. So my answer is yes.
Yes, I'm open, and I would say it's my gender identity is actually because I'm cis gender. So it's something that's the normative of our society, so that's no problem for the people to know that I identify as a man.
It depends also, because I live in Croatia, and it's not the most liberal country. So in terms of activism, yes. In terms of not being ashamed of who I am, yes. But I don't find it necessary to always be talking about the fact that I'm trans. I think I came out as trans around 16 or 17, I think, yeah. So it wasn't just like, it was a journey, and it still is a journey, because I remember coming out as like non-binary and then experimenting with that, and just as you grow as a person and your interests change and your perspectives change as you encounter different people and go through different experiences, the same thing happens with gender and sexuality and your gender expression.
I was actually 21, so it took me a very, very long time to get the courage to do that.
I think that never happened. I never had urge to express someone that I am a man. It's again society thing, that you don't have to deal with that thing.
Me being very butch and very lesbian, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes well, actually it depends on the surroundings. I'm mostly surrounded with people that are not judgmental, but there are times where I'm afraid, and there are times when I am actually happy that people think I'm a man, because that actually makes me feel safer.
Basically, no. But I do sometimes, like, I'm not afraid to paint my nails, but I would think twice about, like, going out with a full face of makeup just because of my, well-being. But I'm not ashamed of it. It's just like self-preservation, I guess.
I hide that I'm intersex whenever I can.
When I was pretty young, my boobs grew really fast, and I was the only one in my class that grew boobs so fast, and they are pretty large. So I couldn't avoid being stared at or touched, and that was really uncomfortable for me. So I lived for about a decade or more since the boobs grew, trying to hide them, squeeze them, do numerous things to them, never accepting them, because I saw them as this thing that is in the way of me being perceived just as a person and not just as a girl with boobs.
No, I never been harassed, or I had some maybe unpleasant situation because I was listening rock. I had long hair. I had earrings. My clothes was cut. But really, I didn't have unpleasant experience or harassment, as you said.
We were out, it was a few years ago. There were a few, I have to call them kids because they were kids. They were kind of worried because they couldn't identify me as a male or female, and they were very, persistent in finding out. So they approached me with the same question. I was like, my pants are my worry, you worry about your own pants, blah, blah. And when it kind of peaked with one of their friends, the leader, I think, punched me in the face with his elbow, and then continued on the outside of the club where they were, punching me around and throwing me around just because, they were worried about how I look. So that happened.
I have a partner now. I'm not afraid of holding his hand in the public.
I take comfort in people thinking that we are like a heterosexual couple. I've noticed my partner sometimes walking on the outside, like as a protection for me, because she's a bit femme and I'm not. So in terms of that, she protects me. And yeah, it depends on where we are. Like, we are mostly in the surroundings of people not caring, but there are countries that we want to visit or we have visited that we were like very cautious about how we act in public.
I remember us sitting in a cafe, and I actually didn't see him for several days, and we met there, and we briefly hugged, and he gave me a kiss, and we sat next to each other, and he just put his hand on my knee. And I remember the glances from the tables that were just next to us. And they didn't look like they were angry or mean looks, but still it was kind of uncomfortable. So I think it's more about, someone put it very well, like, I don't want to be a political statement all the time.
My ex-girlfriend came to my hometown for the first time, and it was my first relationship with a girl. And so back then I was identifying as a lesbian. And I just remember being in like the town, the center square, and just being so afraid to hold her hand, just feeling like the entire world's eyes were pointed at us, when in fact I don't feel like many people care. Maybe people will look at us like in a weird fashion, but that doesn't really bother me. Like if it's not physical violence, I can deal with it. I mean, I can deal with physical violence as well. It's just like not something that I enjoy naturally. So I remember then like being so scared to just hold her hand, let alone kiss her or like hug her, because yeah, I felt so much anxiety and so much attention.
No, I don't have a fear, and I have a partner. We hold each other hands, but we never had a problem about it. We never think about that we may have a problem if we hold hands during the walk or something. We even kiss in public sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's an experience that almost every trans person goes through at some point in their life. Yeah, I have, having gone to a gynecologist the first time, it was a public one, she didn't really ask many questions apart from the generic one. Oh, when did you know? How did you know? I'm like, why that doesn't matter to you. This is traumatizing enough for me. Let's just like get it over with. You don't need to hear my whole life story.
Experiencing inappropriate curiosity, comments, or even being verbally attacked when I was going to doctors was, I would say, case in majority of times when I was looking for healthcare support. When I was younger, I had problems with doctors doing unnecessary treatments just because of the curiosity and not the need. And now I don't have, that's not the case, because I learned that I have a right to say no.
At my current employers, it took me a while to come out. When I started working, we were in training and we were getting to know each other and everything. And that was a new environment for me, because before I was a freelancer, I was self-employed, so I kind of used my sexuality as a filter for the people that I work with. But when I was switching careers and switching employers, it was time for me to work in a team. So we had like 2 weeks of training, and then we had a month of like they call it an incubator. So it took me like a week and a half in training to just start talking about it. It was very stressful. It was I was constantly thinking. I was also a bit ashamed that I was thinking about it, because why am I so closed now when I'm super open, usually. But also these were the people that I'm going to be spending a lot of time with in the future. So yeah, I felt stressed, I felt angry at me, I was a bit ashamed, and yeah, I was just waiting for the right moment. So.
At work with my colleagues, they all know. We also have a shared office with 2 other organizations, and they all know, and I'm open about my sexuality. No, I wasn't always open. That's a very recent thing, especially because I worked for a religious organization before, and it was actually a great fear of mine. What will happen? My existence was at stake at that time, so it was a huge secret that I was actually very afraid. What if they find out that I'm gay?
I was out as trans, but I wasn't out at my workplace because I didn't want to get fired, ironically. Why ironically? Because I did get fired for like being perceived as a lesbian.
I decided one day that I'm going to tell a story about me and my partner, and was expecting something from the environment. They were super chill, they were actually very accepting. It was a big deal for me, and it was actually a big deal that they didn't make a fuss out of it. It was like I was telling a story, and it was just as they were telling their stories. Like they did ask me, where's my partner from, blah, blah, but it was because they were curious, not because they were judgmental or anything. And the thing that I found most cute was when we buy gifts for each other as a team. And one of the things that they bought me was coasters in colors of the rainbow.
In terms of gender, it was relatively bad like the first year and a half after I came out. The coming out itself as a transgender person was intense. We didn't really talk about me being trans for the next year and a half. And during that time, I moved to Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, and I was going to transgender support groups, and I met a lot of trans people, and I learned a lot about my community, myself, but also how to handle these things with, you know, parents, friends, and similar. And I came back and they, you know, I could see that they thought about it, even though we haven't addressed it. And they were asking me about, you know, my plans for hormones and top surgery. So top surgery is the surgery where you remove your breasts and you masculinize your chest. And I told him, you know, I want to change my name legally, I want to change my gender marker. I told him everything. I was really honest about them. And they started using masculine pronouns and they started using my name. And it was just like an awkward few months of adjusting to this new dynamic. But the second we got past that, you know, I became so much more open with them. I really felt like we connected on a fundamental level, like they understood me, they saw me for the first time as me, and I didn't have to lie anymore about things, I didn't have to feel uncomfortable, I didn't have to hide parts of myself, and I could then ask for help with situations that related to, I don't know, being discriminated at college or, you know, healthcare and basically every part of my life.
My family is pretty traditional, but that never stopped them from being pretty normal to me. My father would sometimes have some strange moments when he would say something like, "You can't do that, you're a woman," or "That's not for a woman," or "A woman shouldn't be doing this." When I would look at him and like, "What are you talking about? You don't mean that at all." And then I don't know where he would pick that up, because that's not how he thinks. And I was discriminated against in my family from my stepfather the most. He was really, really a huge chauvinist and racist and everything. And I was very little when I was growing up beside him, and I was really confused about where is this all coming from, but I had a feeling like it's wrong. Even though he was this authority figure, and I just said it inside of me like, I don't feel like this is right.
I did find some misunderstandings with the members of my family. I think my dad is more of a person that likes to, he knows, but he has difficulties kind of accepting it. So he'd rather see my partners as my friends. He's one of those people who are in the don't ask, don't tell department. Like, I know, but I don't want to know. So I think I have a few issues with that. I have a bit of a problem with, like, my mom is very accepting. She's very okay with my partners. She's super nice to my current partner, but she has a problem with me being so out.
Sometimes it's so hard to discern because there is a thin line between discrimination and also where people just don't know how to behave differently. Biggest discrimination that I experienced was at the work I was talking about, where I was working at the this one religious organization. And one of the board members, she was actually my best friend. And First, back then I decided to come out, and I came out to her, and her reaction was, first of all, that our whole friendship was a lie, and actually, she then suggested that I need to get kicked out of the organization. And then there are the small things where you see a difference of how my brother's partners are treated in our family and how my partner is treated. Maybe this is not a huge thing. I mean, my partner is still accepted, but there are these small things that, for example, like my family already has phone numbers of all the other partners, but not of my partner. When something is happening, I mean, they are inviting him, and I think it's getting better, but it's just a way of how they involve the other partners, and my partner is very different. It's different. There have been situations where people that I grew up with, they actually pretend they don't know me.
I have felt discriminated because of my gender identity within my family and even close friends. They found it hard to accept my gender identity, my name, my pronouns, and I felt depressed with that. I felt like maybe not that they don't love me, but that they can't understand me and that we can't have a relationship that we had before I came out to them. And I was really depressed because of that, anxious, and I was lacking a huge amount of self-confidence after that and because of that. And just because they weren't accepting me and that they weren't, I would say, respect my pronouns and my name and everything. And they were kind of forcing me to be something that I'm not, that didn't let me to not be who I am.